tell, then you see the road. I'm out to my soul into the sides whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect. Do it. All of that green together, the truth, yeah. Tell you the
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of, What If My Little Pony Meets Naruto? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of JBoy44 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. On top of the trackless drain, Celestia was sighing in the heat, spinning around, slashing her swords to cut bandits as she said, "Too hot to do anything flashy." Shikamaru just used shadow position to hold back a large number of them, and plus they are destruct by you and Fluttershy in bikinis. He then used shadow needles, making the normal shadow strange hands turn into spikes to impale them. Shino sent out a bug swarm right down the throats of a bandit to kill him by suffocation. No one looks at the flutter melons but me, he sounded enraged. Fluttershy covered her chest and was red as she let out an "oh my." While a giant salamander behind her bit off a bandit's head, I knew summoning one of my lizards was a good idea in this heat. Celestia giggled as while cutting off a guy's head as she said, "Don't be shy Flutters, you got it, so flaunt it." It motived Shino. She said, pointing with a wing to see him having his swarm take on his form and strangle a shinobi for him, case in point that he can now make copies of himself out of his hive. Soon the bandits were abandoning the place, fearing two of the Leaf's demons. Not much later, as the sun was setting, Celestia was hovering, arms crossed, eyes rolling as the Prince Michiru want to talk. He was a kind man if not a bit stupid. He asked, "So what kind of king does the Leaf have?" Celestia rolled her eyes. "The Leaf's leader is an Hokage with his decide by private vote, not bloodline." The prince looked confused, so she explained, "Short order, if your family is large enough to found as a clan or has money, you are noble and get one member, the current leader of it, on council. Their job is to be advices, and if the Hokage doesn't pick the next one before dying, they decide on possible replacements and decide by how many agree on the possible replacement, with the one with the most agrees getting the position." The prince held his chin as he said, "A bit complicated, but to teach their own, I guess. But what happens if it's a tie?" Fluttershy form above said, "They decide on either two tied, possible fight, winner gets it or ask, and if one of the two turns it down, it's over right then and there. Keep in mind it's a shinobi village," she said before coming into view as she said, "My turn to watch the found." Michiru held his chin as he looked to Asai and said, "A circus. My son loves the circus and he hasn't smiled much this whole trip. The only reason I left home on this trip across another land was because I felt like he and I were not spending much time together. Would you mind if we went, if only for my son Hikaru to get a smile?" Fluttershy nodded and said, "We don't mind, but I must ask, if you care about your son, why aren't you with him right now?" The prince sighed, "Well, I offer him to ride with me but he turns it down. I honestly think since me and his mother split he blames me. I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, as a royal he has to live with me, and thanks to royal law a royal's ex-wife can't be in the capital. With it's an island nation, the whole place is the capital, so she's on the man land and I have to go through the process of planning a trip and getting it approved by my father just to take him to see her. I mean, we've been gone for months in a big twisted patter," he said, drawing with his finger, "just so we could be in her hometown 4 times. I still love her and don't know why she left me. I gave her everything she ever wanted." Fluttershy held her chin. "You ever stop to think by doing that she felt like you were trying to buy her like an object and not caring about her as a person?" The Crescent Moon Kingdom's prince held his chin as he said, "Could be. I'll apologies for that. If it works, me and her can at least become friends. That way when I am king I can remove my father's no ex-wives of royals on the island, so I can offer her to move back so she can spend more time with our son. She may accept to it being at the castle, so the kid doesn't have to pick, do I go to mommy or daddy's house every day?" The Pegasus girl smiled as she happily said, "See, you learned and got better and it didn't cost you a thing." The prince held his chin as he said, "True, I am paying you as a bodyguard, not as an advisor." He seemed stunned and confused. "Maybe that's why my son loves that bow he got from his mother, as she made it herself and thereby is a gift that cost nothing." Later on, while most were at the circus, Shikamaru was on the train talking into the phone with Twilight. Gee, what the hell is the range on this things? Anyway, how does it go studying the magic rock? Over. Twilight then said, it hasn't been easy with Akamaru and Spike being the most sickeningly sweet couple ever up in the corner, but I found out that it works similar to Sage Jutsu. Pulling in chakra formed the air, but it doesn't stay chakra, it converts to another form of energy or jello energy, as I have no other word for it. Over. The dark-haired boy looked up at the night sky as he said, well, that's odd, but explains how their abilities seem to be a bit rule-breaking. Has the wolf lady spoken over? Twilgit then replied, Ino used her mind-reading jutsu to confirm Fugai's claim to memory lose, as Temujin didn't lose memory when his stone died after fighting his former MSTR. It probably has to do with the curse mark-like monster form she used. And also can't find out why Temujin's stone died. Over. Shikamaru rolled his eyes and said, I think the guy made his stone die as he probably start to think the stones bring nothing but evil and were too troublesome. Over. Twilgit sound like she was thinking about it, well, it's close to magic, so possible, man. Over. At with point, it looked like the circus was being loaded up on the train. Shikamaru then got up and said, I got to go, looks like the prince ought the whole circus for his son. Over. Michiru then walked up and said, no, I did not buy them, my son won a shooting contest where the ring leader said he could ask for anything in the circus for a prize if he won. My son asked for the saber-toothed tiger. The ring leader looked said as it was like part of the family, so I offered to give them an area to perform in on my island, that way they still get the tiger and my son has his hard-earned prize. No money traded hands, and my son smiled or gasped in shock. I'll have to thank the yellow one for her advice when I see her next. Now I offered them a free ride too, so sorry for the extra workload. While they traveled, Hikaru was blinking at the tiger's cage as it roared, and Fluttershy said, he is sensing your fear. And as I understand animals, he says that's why he doesn't like most things. He likes the monkey Kiki as he shows no fear. And he likes me as I can understand him. But hates Shino because he makes him itch like fleas, kind of a chatterbox he is. Unknown to them, a bandit jumped out of the shadows holding a knife as he said, hand over the prince. Fluttershy turned and quickly used a wing to hold back the knife as she said, nice try, I heard your breathing miles away. You think my ears are for show? Hikaru, behind you. The little prince rolled, and in a moment he spotted the bandit that was behind him was holding some kind of long needle covered in something, clearly a knockout drag, and in a moment he fired plastic arrow at the lock for the tiger's cage as the needle was heading for Chamu. In a moment the plastic arrow turned the knob, opening the cage, letting the saber tooth jump out, avoiding the needle as it roared and tackled the bandit that almost had the prince. Fluttershy smiled as she happily said, he liked that. She then landed a hoof to the other bandit's stomach, knocking him out. She then grabbed the down needle as she said, I know this sleeping drag is poisons to felines. Chamu would have died if not for you, Hikaru. In a moment the tiger walked over and nuzzled the boy happily, making him smile as he petted the large cat, making it purr. On the last step before moving to boat to the island, the prince was in his ex-wife's house where she yelled at him, you just don't get it. Michiru spoke up and said, I was trying to buy you. Ameo blinked in shock, nod ready for that response from her ex-husband as Michiru continued, so yes, I do get it. Been a long journey, and the new hires played therapist with me and point out bilaterally just giving you anything you hint you want or ask for. I was basically trying to buy you, treating you like say my shirt instead of as a person. Ameo blinked as she let out a stunned, well, I guess you do get it. The prince nodded to his ex-wife and said, yes, I also get. I turn to food and objects to fill the void, explaining my weight gain, but that's not healthy. I know I can't buy more years on this world for my father, and my original idea of giving our son lots of stuff to distract him isn't going to work either, as that's not what he wants. He wants his mom. But my father's law stops that. The former royal mother blinked as she sat down stunned, okay then, so you've gotten smarter. What do you plan on doing? The prince sighed and said, my father isn't going to be around much long, so when I am king I'll remove the law against no royal family ex-wives on the island. That way you can move back, come to visit, or whatever your choice is. The fact of the matter is you'll have a choice to see our son more. And maybe, just maybe, we could end up being friends in the long run, or something more civil than this. The women blinked and said, "Okay, then coagulations on growing a brain. I can tell by the off-rails train it is recent development." The prince nodded. "Now how about this, I'll have one of the shinobi and the normal guard watch the house so our son can spend the night with you before we head back, would that be okay with you?" The women was stunned. "I accept, but asking first before making a choice involving us. Where was this guy years ago?" The prince sighed as he asked, "Also one last thing before I tell our son he can spend the night with you, if I had the smarts I do know, do you think we may have not divorced or at the very least could have stayed friends?" His ex-wife gave a shrug. Meanwhile on the train Fluttershy smirked as she performed a summoning jutsu, making a saber-toothed cheetah appear. "Thanks to the new pet I was able to start a saber cat contract. I can now summon saber-tooth versions of any cat to fight for me, so another contract for me that'll improve my status at the exams the week after we get back." Shino clapped as he said, well done, still doesn't make up for the lack or proper training for him being sent away on missions." She nodded. Later that night, lurking in the shadows attacking the train, was one large shinobi. He jumped out to try and smash in a door, and when he did he was confused and radioed in something, the BRTS not in his room. A moment later Celestia kicked the man in the head, knocking him out, and she noticed her hoof dent in his head. She whispered, "I think I just killed him with a high kick." In another room Michiru was gasping as man held out his glove touching a bird he pulled out of his pocket, turning it to stone. "I'll turn him into a rock like I did his old man." While the guard stepped away, Shikamaru jumped and landing a kick to the man's head, knocking him away from the prince. The large prince panted as the shinobi named Ishidate growled, "I am doing paid by the advisor to kill the king's family, but he wants to see this fat bstrd die in person." In a moment Shikamaru appeared dizzy and held his hands together, "Kai," but he coughed as Karenbana walked up smirking, "I missed my genjutsu with poisons honey. Now boss, we got to go. Saber-toothed lion things heading this way beside horse-sized salamanders and giant bugs." The lead shinobi said, "The prince's BRT is clearly in the house." Michiru held his hands out. "I'll come without struggle if you leave my son and his mother alone," he said, shocking himself. The lead of the hired killers grabbed him and vanished in smoke, saying, "Gee, I guess we can say the kid fell in the ocean and drowned if he keeps off the island." In a moment they were gone. The next day, hearing this form, Celestia Ameo was stunned. Wait, he traded himself for me and my son. How come you and the other demoness fixed him in 2 talks but I couldn't get him to stop and think?" she yelled in shock. At which point Hikaru spoke up, "They didn't yell, Mom." The women jumped at shock in the comment. Shino then said, "Yes, you check more flies with honey than swinging around a giant oni club, but we need to get a move on my insects." Reported the prince's execution is at nightfall under tonight's crescent moon. We have to move. And this time we know their tricks. On the island on its highest tower the prince was on a plank with a rope around his neck as the advisor laughed, "You're fat as will break it." Michiru sighed as he looked down. There was a festival moving in with circus act. He remembered and smiled as he looked, his hands tied back at the man. "Shabadaba, you may kill me, you may claim my throne, but you will never be a king. If there is one thing I learned, a king is a leader. A leader has to care and protect their followers. My father paid for his people medical care and education as he cared. He was a leader. You are lazy, backstabbing tyrant." The man span his mustache around as he asked, completely not fazed, "Your point, fat ass?" Michiru smiled as he closed his eyes, "The point being you won't win. People will rebel wanting a leader, not a tyrant, and sooner or later you'll run out of cash to pay those 2 shinobi to protect you. And when you do, my father will smile down from the heavens at your fall, and if so be it, so will I." The want-to-be ruler blinked and said, "Since when did you get a spine to go with that fat ass?" he said, confused as he pulled out a sword. "I could kill you right now, fat boy." The prince let out a chuckle and said, "Yeah, I know." The female hired shinobi held her chin and said, "Well, he clearly has a lot of guts. That's for sure. Just shocking, he has more than he appears to." Below that is when a young clown riding a saber-toothed cat smiled as he fired his arrow and hit the rope around Michiru's neck, cutting it off from the pole as he smiled and said, "There is my part, Dad." On the plank the prince gasped before jumping off, only to be caught by Celestia, who held him by the hand, and he said, "I am not paying you enough for this. This can't be easy. I am a heavy-set man." Celestia nodded with a groan, "Yeah, we're going done. Not used to carrying this much at a time." The would-be ruler screamed as he said, "Stop them, But he turned the female had been knocked out by a swarm of bugs that clearly bit and stung her, making her pass out as Shino formed the swarm, or maybe a clone of him, and he said, "Yeah, that's not happening." Down below, the man with the gauntlet tried to use to turn Celestia to stone, only for Fluttershy jump in the way and drink the super potion. In a moment she gave a chakra-covered punch that shattered it. Fluttershy stood there, her butterfly cutie mark became bats, her wings bat-like and her ears pointed, and she smiled a fawn-like smile as her fur dulled in color. She then charged with a yell. Michiru looked away as he said, "Well, that ends that." The next day, while watching the ship taking the Leaf Shinobi home, Michiru smiled from his balcony as he looked to his son. "You know, son, I'm going to go see your mother again now. I think we may be able to work it out with my new outlook on like. Don't get your hopes up though, we'll probably just end up being friends." Hikaru shield as he pet his saber-toothed cat as he happily said, "I think she'll start to like the new you, Dad." Later on at the Leaf Gates, Shikamaru stepped in and saw the boss toad jumping around in the forest with a screaming Pinkie Pie on its back. She was yelling, "I summoned you, you will accept that ward as." Lee walked up back in shinobi gear but with metal armored braces around his legs. "Yeah, I know, by dating her I shouldn't be shocked, but I am. Also, hi Shikamaru, my legs are all better, I just don't want to leave them unguarded anymore. Also, Pinkie's sister Marble has started dating Sasuke," said Pai's sister. Walked by in a black kimono spinning happily while the fan girls who haven't seen Sasuke's cursed form growled at her. Fluttershy landed back in her normal outfit, but she chose to keep the green bikini top part of her summer outfit as she smiled. "Well, I get some self-confidence and Pinkie Pie gets a giant toad that beats my new saber cats." Shino walked up adjusting his glasses. "Yeah, I got to love the leaf. We have unicorns, pony people, Pegasus twin semi-feral kitsunes, alicorns and a Pinkie Pie. Pinkie Pie is a class all her own." Celestia, completely back in her normal outfit, walked up, nodded as she said, "Yeah, the Kushina part of me missed missions, but I am going to go find my babies now." She then noticed a happy Sunset walking by on all fours, using her mouth to drag a chakra chained up blushing Flash sentry behind her. "I need to have a talk with her." Twilget ran by as she yelled, "Sunset, come back!" The Jello stone merged into Flash and won't come out. In the arena many people were gathered for this. For many of the Anthros it would be the first view of what Shinobi can do. The first match was Sasuke vs Naruto. Sasuke walking hands in his pocket facing the semi-feral Ninetales, who was standing on all fours ready to strike like Kiba would, but he smiled as he took on his cursed seal form, making everyone who wasn't there for when it happened jump in shock as his eyes turned into the Sharingan as he said, "Tengu vs Kitsune, may the better monster win, my friend." The Chunin who was hosting it jumped out of the arena to ring the bell. While there was many shocked face, Sasuke took to the air as Naruto roared, firing off beams from his nails while Sasuke pulled out a chakra blade and held it, covering it in lighting. "Thanks for the training, Kakashi." In a moment he fired off a lighting bolt from it, making Naruto jump. The Kitsune screamed before letting out a sonic roar, making everyone in the stands, especially the Anthros, cover their ears in pain. The Uchiha held his head screaming as he said, "F." His eyes then changed, or at least the left one, as moved his right arm as what looked like a giant chakra set of rib cages bone right arm and skull head appeared around him. The large arm hit the ground, making Naruto shut up as he jumped back. Sasuke panted as he looked with a Mangekyo Sharingan eye as he said, "I was saving his for later, but looks like I'll need it. A few weeks back when some mugger dared to attack my marble I went ballistic. The emotion stress upgraded my Sharingan. I only got it in one eye for some weird reason." He shrugged at the last part as he grabbed his chakra blade in his right hand, making a scaled up to size knife appear in the arm. "I have an incomplete Susanoo." His knife became covered in black flames as the same thing happened to the arm's weapon. As the airborne fighter gave a downward slash, Naruto jumped and roared as what looked like glowing golden fox-like bones appeared with a skull rib cage and bought harms, with Naruto growling inside of it ribs as 9 pillars of chakra beamed behind him. Sasuke smirked. "Right, legend said Susanoo was learned by an Uchiha using the Lean It by watching it to copy a human infused with demonic chakra. That's you. Okay, but yours has both arms," he complained, making Naruto put the left arm of the thing around him behind his back as it went to slash with its claws to clash with Sasuke's black fire blade. As the Uchiha said, "Thank you for being fair, Naruto," he said as he lowered so Claw was holding back sword, both weapons close to their owner's energy bones. Celestia was eating popcorn in the stand. Luna's jaw dropped as she laughed. When I was the Jinchuriki I could do that, dear sister, but my partial manifestation was full-bodied but not bad for a first attempted, I most say. Igneous Rock was jaw dropped as Marble was waving a go. Sasuke sighed, cheering loudly, but his and his wife's eyes were focused on the winged young man their daughter was dating. Limestone gulped. I insulted him, she was fearful. Sasuke was growling. Before long his other eye changed to match his other one and his monster grow its second arm, and in a moment its fist was locked with Naruto's fist. Naruto roared form with his as Sasuke yelled. They were in a stall mate. It would be whoever could outlast the other, but in a moment Sasuke's eye, the first one to change, bleed as he screamed, making his blade holding arm vanish, allowing Naruto's fox to slash his skeleton, shattering it into the chakra partials, leaving Sasuke open as the other hand grabbed him. But to Sasuke's shock the arm put him into the stands and vanished, and he sighed as he returned to human form and sighed. His former fangirls avoid him as he walked and said, well, I lost. His Sharingan turned off as he whipped his eye. You had the better durability since your eye isn't self-destructing, he said, rubbing the hurting thing. No wonder my brother went insane. Have got to find out a way around this thing or I won't be able to see Marble. I was fine with it only being one eye, but now both. Fighting Naruto most have forced open the block or whatever. He then walked to the Pi family and jumped as he sat down as Marble hugged him, and he said, relax, I am out just here to watch the show with my girlfriend. Ouch, eye still stings. The guy hosting the show came back as Naruto dropped his partial-tailed beast mode and he raised the kitsune's hand and said, winner Naruto Uzumaki. And may I add, god damn. Next up, Hinata Hyuga vs Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash flowed down smiling as Hinata walked in and bowed, an action the blue mare returned. In a moment Hinata sent out a flame-like lion head barrage, making Rainbow Dash take to the air. The blue girl smiled. Sasuke had the right plan. Attack formed the air. She then flew up and grabbed a cloud and pulled it down and stood on it and put a hand to it, making it fire off lighting for her. Hinata smirked as she did her 8 trigram spin, and Rainbow's eyes widened as the lighting span around her building into a vortex. Celestia stopped eating popcorn, allowing Luna to grab some as she said, wait, that is what Minato was trying to do to improve his Rasengan. She is using spinning chakra to absorb an element. Form the stands. Niji looked closer. She is spinning her hands so the chakra around her is in all directions. She has turned herself into one giant Rasengan, he said, gasping. As the other Hyugas stood up, turning on their eyes to look at it more closely, as Hinata sent an upward 2-hand strike, firing off the electric chakra spinning dome around her, off it taking on a lion head barrage-like form with a spinning ball of lighting in its mouth. Rainbow's eyes widened in shock as she tried to avoid it, only for it to blow and send off an electric shock wave in the air that hit her, shocking her. In a moment her wings twitched and spasmed, making her fall. The blue girl was falling, and before she could catch her, Hinata jumped and hit her with a gentle fist blow to the point in her back where her wings were attacked, making them stick straight out, and she hit the ground, her wings locked up, leaving her grounded. Rainbow Dash got up shaking as she said, that was epic. A gentle fist blow then hit her in the gut, knocking her out. Rainbow fell out as Hinata carried her friend away as the Chunin host said, well now F. No other words. Hinata wins. God damn. We'll now take a short break as I need to change my pants, and I know I am not the only one after those 2 matches. While most people's jaws were dropped, Sasuke was holding ice to his eye as he said, I bet that looked better with depth perception, he said, sad he only saw it with one eye. With the other fighters, Hinata was happily hugging and kissing Naruto, whose tails were wagging like a happy puppy. Shikamaru sighed, the 2 biggest badass turn more sickeningly sweet than Spike and Akamaru, I mean honestly. Choji nodded as she said, yeah man. Do you think Hinata can do that with any elemental attack, or was she only able to do it as her element is lighting, will main on the side she has fire? Twilget held her chin and said, good question Choji, damn good question, she sound curious. Meanwhile in the watching spots, Rainbow Dash was walking towards a seat and sat with her mom in a green kimono and her dad in a brown on, hugging her. Windy said, don't look so down, you did great, you'll get her next time honey. Bao petted his daughter's back, yeah I am sure you can do it next time your boyfriend agrees, he said as he threw Sai in a headlock and gave Haima nudgy. Sai was laughing it off while Rainbow Dash looked like she might die. In the stands Trenderhoof was using Mystic Palm to heal up Sasuke's eyes. Don't know how this eternal thing works. Getting an eye transplant form a family member stops the upgrade form making your eye melt, but I guess I am not one for bad-mouthing alien biology. Mr. My ancestors came from the moon. Sasuke rolled his eyes as he said, and self-identify as a Tengu. Respect that. Now come on, the next match is starting. Down in the arena Zabuza was the new host and he said, okay Applejack, Rarity, make it good, he said as he spotted Applejack spinning around a thin chain with a weight on the end like a lasso. Rarity put on some purple gloves with a smirk, and as Applejack threw her weapon Rarity jumped to the left and hit the ground making it shake and fissures open as she called out, Cherry Blossom Impact. Zabuza jumped onto the side of wall holding there with chakra as Applejack fell over, her eyes widening formed the display of strength. Well goddamn. In the stands Rarity's family's jaws dropped at her display of strength. Cookie gasped, what has my daughter been doing? Applejack got back to her hooves and span her chain as she said, what in tarnation? Rarity made a barrier to guard as she smiled, medical ninjutsu is all about chakra control, it needs to be, or the boost to the body's healing system would make burns. Thanks to this, a side effect of it is being able to actively control the amount my body use at any time. I can ingress the flow to boost my speed and strength. Your boyfriend can do the same thing, but I am a lot better at it, she said smirking as she appeared behind Applejack through a burst of speed and land a roundhouse to the right side of her friend's head. Applejack was sent flying, but she smirked as she pulled her chain and in a moment Rarity fell thanks to the weight being wrapped around her left ankle. When Applejack landed she gave her chain a pull and a swing sending Rarity into a wall, while the unicorn did make an energy dome that happily cut the chain off her. She still hit the wall and was injured. AJ got up smiling as she spit, and awesome earth pony, I have nature super strength and endurance, you knows what your mimic skill can't gives you. Rarity got up smirking as she fired off a horn blast making Applejack jump as she said, and I have better range of attack. Applejack was running, she was barely avoiding the beams as she held her hat on and added, big deal, us will just outlast yous. Plus you put on a PND or two since you and Choji have been dating. The other Anthro smiled as she banged her fist together with a smirk, as small butterfly wings appeared on her. That's because I reverse engineered his clan's calorie control, she said. In a moment she was in front of AJ and landed a blow right to her gut making Applejack gasp. Rarity smiled, it lets them turn fat into pure energy to boost themselves. A side of effect is side effectless lose of all the weight they converted to energy. Well, if mastered, if you do know much or are sloppy you screw up your digestive system, it's why I keep my version small, 5 pounds odd. She said as she left up for a high kick landing a kick right to Applejack's chin sending her flying. Applejack flipped landing on her hooves panting as Rarity appeared before her going in for punches, so Applejack put up her fist and charged her hands on fire as she clashed blow for blow with Rarity. Well, Rarity's use mimicked all my natural abilities. Up in the stand Sweet Belle's jaw dropped as did the Apple family. Apple Bloom then yelled out, this is what shinobi do for a living. Like it was just hitting the saved Anthros. Beside her Choji was cheering for Rarity, as Applejack went in for a fire-released left roundhouse that hit Rarity in the gut hard enough to make her gasp. Rarity stumbled and made her palm glow as she held her side and pulled out a pill and took it, and BLD pill for a quick pick-me-up and damage healed to 60%. On top of it, she then got back into fighting stance and ran in clotheslining Applejack in the neck knocking her down as she went in and punched AJ in the stomach making AJ gasp and pass out from the impact. Zabuza jumped down and put a hand to Applejack's neck, relax everyone, the farmer's daughter is just knocked the F out. Rarity's wings vanished as she held a hand up in victory, winner Rarity. We'll need some earth release people to repair the ring, I'll get Applejack to the nurse station. When Applejack woke up Trenderhoof was using Mystic Palm on her stomach as he said, hold still, I am almost done repairing the last broken rib. A point blank cherry blossom impact knocked you out cold. Rarity put all she had into that blow. If it makes you feel better. He was then finished. AJ got up, cracked her neck and said, it does a little bit. But I needs more range, not that it would work against someone with that level of defense. Her boyfriend said, my shields are way better and you were able to smash one of mine. So while so rang other than that new chain will help like simple fireball jutsu, I think you need to focus on pulling them to you so you can use that brute force of yours to break the defense. Applejack then looked to her chain and saw the missing weight. She pulled out a kunai knight and grabbed its end and the chain's end and covered her hands in flames. In a moment it was fused together, giving the chain a new bladed tip. She said as she smirked, "Then let's get rid of the training weight and go to blade." In the stands, Pinkie Pie was using a wet rock to sharpen the blade on an as big as her battle axe. As she said, the sand lady folded when she found out she was against Sunset. "So now it's Fluttershy versus Twilight, then me versus the guy who almost cost my boyfriend his legs, who is also technically speaking an evil version of Naruto with only 1/9 the power and a split personality. But I am ready." Limestone backed away from her sister and in shock asked, "Where did you even get that?" Pinkie Pie, whose hair was flat, smiled as she said, "Simple. While training with the perverted old toad to learn how to summon, I also found my nature releases fire, earth and metal," she said as she touched the stone wall and her hand blew as she pulled a kunai out of it. As her sister gasped, "The metal part is a bloodline limit I have by simple genetic fluke. It lets me manipulate earth and heat it into metal, giving me a limitless armor of simple cutting and smashing gear." Pinkie Pie smiled as she moved the knife around. "I am a walking armory." Marble jumped as she said, "We're F," she sounded scared. The Pinkie mare then watched as they fixed the ring. As she put the knife up into her holder and held her axe, she made it glow with chakra, changing it into a war hammer with spikes on the end before spinning it around and making the ends burst into flames. "Yeah, this should handle his sand defense, and when he switched to demon mode I'll be ready." Zabuza then called out, "Twilight, Sparkle and Fluttershy, come on down." In the stands, Mrs. Shy gasped, after seeing what the others can do. "What will my baby be like?" She then saw her daughter's outfit and gasped, fainting. Mr. Shy held his wife, as Fluttershy's brother said, "Yeah, I don't think my sister being bold is the shocking thing." The two winged ladies got ready for their fight as Enko could be heard yelling, "They are both my students. Who the hell do I got damn F cheer for here? Someone tell me got FIT." Fluttershy cracked her knuckles and in a moment showed off her new red gloves, and her left-right index finger glows, summoning a saber-toothed cheetah and a saber-toothed lion that charged. As she said, "I sealed my BLD and now drying out casings in each finger along with many quick summon seals, making it so I can summon any of my teen creatures almost instantly." Twilget took to the air and fired a breezing beam from her horn, freezing the cats. As she said, "Yes, but my range makes your pets useless," she said, turning and freezing the giant centipede. "After all, you have only normal creatures. Well, relatively they don't have any elemental power, so my spell for draining head away to flash freeze makes them useless. I studied how Haku's chakra works to figure it out." Fluttershy adjusted her gloves as she smirked and said, "Well, I know about that weakness of mine, so I studied myself." She then took a breath and blew out a massive burst of flames. Twilget had to make a bubble around her, and to her shock, when the flames died down, she saw Fluttershy in front of her giving a right hook that shattered it and connect to Twilight's jaw, knocking her down. "I found out I have fire release. And I combined it with the natural weather control power, but unlike Dashi, I figured out how to make my clouds small using just my breath," she said, blowing out, making a small cloud appear. The cloud then rained fire thanks to being infused with fire chakra. Dashi didn't take the time to improve, that's why Hinata was able to counter. She knew where Dashi would strike. Twilight rolled away from the fire rain as Fluttershy made more clouds covering the ring, and she made a shield around her as a firestorm rained down on her. She noticed while the cats dispelled, the giant bug remained and was melting out. The bug moved its natural armor, allowing it to take the head as it charged and knocking Fluttershy's dome shield with the alicorn inside into the wall, where it rapidly smashed at it, trying to crack it. Twilget gulped. "Okay, now giant monster in front of me, firestorm above me." She noticed her shield cracking, shield breaking, and this firestorm ruins my freeze her pet's plan. "And if I am not shielded I'll be set on fire. I am pinned and admit defeated." Fluttershy smiled as she stopped her clouds and smiled as she landed and petted her bug, "And that's a win for me." Zabuza was in the arena holding an umbrella over his head. "When Pinkie Pie handed this to me and said it was fireproof, I didn't get it. Now I do," he said, closing it. "Now I do. That won't work in the field, but still impressive." "Okay, now Gara versus Pinkie Pie, the demon of the sands versus the bipolar pink. Be out for BLD." Gara appeared in a torrent of sand as he said, "Your BLD is demanded, demon." He sounded cold and unfeeling. Pinkie Pie jumped down, landed on her hooves as she cracked her knuckles, and the bell rang. As Gara's sand moved to strike her, she smirked as she touched the ground and pulled out a massive war hammer with spikes on the end, and with one hand she swung the weapon bigger than her and the sand flashed to glass. Gara's eyes widened as he raised a hand to try and raise sand spikes, only for Pinkie Pie to jump and spin with the weapon, flashing it to glass as she landed standing on one of the points, not breaking it. With a smirk, "Go ahead, ground the ground back into sand. It'll take time and limit your use. Because my steel release gives me an armory and the fire half is perfect to smashing your sand," she said, smiling as she slammed the glass she was standing on, making it explode into glass dust, making Gara summon his sand armor as the shards were heading for him. But while he made that focus, he gasped as the armor on his right arm turned to a glass casing. He spotted a small orange toad on Pinkie Pie's shoulder holding a lighter as he spat oil out as Pinkie smiled as she said, "Thanks Gamatatsu." She was so happy about it. She then charged in, using her weapon to defend against the sand, while the toad went on the attack, using its oil to turn the lighter into a flamethrower. Gara gasped as his whole left arm was covered in glass. He growled, but that is when something happened. He heard a crack as Pinkie's tail twitched. He spotted it, a throwing star in the glass case. "You use your tail," he roared as he saw something red and screamed in horror. It was his BLD. The throwing star cracked the glass, making the glass cut him. Everyone formed. Sand gasped in horror, for Gara had been injured for the first time ever. The sands went out of control as he made a dome around himself, screaming like a madman. Pinkie Pie kept up flashing the sand to glass easily when she noticed feathers falling. A lot of shinobi got it. A genjutsu was being cast while many were breaking it themselves or for others, but Pinkie Pie was focused on Gara. So much so she missed the third, battling the two other Hokages controlled by Orochimaru, while Naruto, Sunset, Luna and Celestia were forced to fight the reanimated and crying Minato outside the stands. Zabuza was about to say something, but when Gara's now half-glass orb moved, so did Pinkie Pie, who was a mayor on a mission. Outside, Choji used his partial expiation jutsu to hammer a sound ninja into the ground as Flash Sentry held out his hand, firing off a green beam he got by absorbing the chakra formed the genjutsu. Jiraiya smiled, "Flash Boy will make a sage out of you yet, even if it is a cheat." Tsunade hit the ground, making a small earthquake as she said, "My trainees didn't need a cheat. You saw what Rarity did." Applejack used her chain's blade covered in fire to slash at a group of sound shinobi's back as she said, "This ain't the time for this." Trenderhoof came up, his sword covered in water and chakra formed into a thin long blade. With one swing he was able to slash the throats of 10 henchmen before landing a kiss on Applejack's cheek before forming the water in chakra into a larger blade mimicking Zabuza's weapon shape. The stallion then charged in, slashing a sand ninja head off, as he got a thumbs up for Zabuza. Elsewhere, Pinkie Pie's battle had taken her to the forest. The mare now had Gamakichi on her other shoulder, having traded her hammer for an axe, which she looked axe crazy as Gar stood there, his bleeding arm turned into the tailed beast along with that corner of his face and the beast tail coming from the gourd. She growled as she slashed at incoming sand, making it flash to glass only to jump when he fired off an air bullet as she said, "I didn't think he had anything but sand." The older Toad brother, "That isn't the guy you were just fighting, it's the demon he guards taking over because he fainted, and while he is resting the demon has control." The demon said, his mind was shattered when his uncle tried to kill him. He laughed as he fired off a small tail beast ball blaster, making Pinkie Pie jump down to the ground to avoid. That is when she looked up and saw the full-grown tailed beast, so she dropped her weapon and made hand size. In a moment when the demon went to smash her, the boss Toad appeared in smock and fired a water bullet, making the thing's arm turn to mud and fall off. As the demon pulled in more sand, Pinkie Pie was on his back with his boys. "Yeah, he tried to kill me and your son's boss man." Gamabunta growled, "Well then let's teach him a lesson, shall we?" He drew his sword and slashed only for the sand the demon was made of to grind its blade to dust. His youngest son said, "Dad, we were using flames to turn him to glass. Maybe if we do it right we can shock the guy inside awake." In a moment the boss Toad spat up oil covering the forest around them and the demon as Pinkie Pie smiled as she had hand size, fireball jutsu. She then breathed fire around the area. Soon the One-Tails was screaming as the flames spread to him, turning his sand to glass in chunks. He couldn't gather enough earth to counter it. That is when Pinkie Pie jumped, her hair and tail going back to puffy as she pulled out a large bladeless throwing star and threw it, knocking Gara out and upside the head awake. As he fell, Pinkie Pie jumped off, grabbing the beaten and bloody man and setting him down. To his shock, Pinkie put her hands beside her beach and said, "I have every reason to kill you, but I won't. Those cuts filled with sand, mud and sweat will probably do it. And so what if your uncle and father were assholes? I am just guessing, as he was your leader. Your brother and sister care about you. In fact, I hear them looking for you now." She then ran off, dispelling her summons as she headed back to the leaf. At which point Temari and Kankuro showed and picked up the injured Gara, making the redhead cry out, "I am sorry," before passing out. But the demon did not take control, maybe because it knew right now it had nothing to control. Meanwhile, back in the leaf, Twilight was firing off multiple bursts of energy from her horn at Shinobi. Shikamaru was holding still with shadow possession, while Ino used a family jutsu to make the sound ninja attack sand. They then looked up at the fourth's fight. Celestia and Luna had grabbed and restrained Minato, who was struggling, about to break free. As a light glow, it was Naruto and Sunset in mirrored poses. Naruto on the right with his left arm towards his sister, his tail pointed her way down on his knees. His twin had it mirrored, and between their tails and clawed hands a tail beast ball blaster was growing. In a moment the alicorns let go of Minato as the twins cried as they fired on their father, destroying him, as he smiled happily and said, "I am so proud of you." That is when they heard a groan, and Luna went to it and gasped in horror. There, bleeding out, was the now arm and legless Kabuto, who coughed up BLD, saying, "The price of being one of the good guys and protecting my friends, worth it." He then passed out. Pinkie had made it to the village and was pulling things out of her repuffed mane, throwing them at sand and sound ninjas as she noticed the tail beast ball blaster, image that when their yin-yang imbalance corrects itself, making them unferal. She then noticed the sand village leaving. Clearly news about their leader being a fake got to them, and they were pulling out as she a chainsaw and slashed off a sound village shinobi's arm. "F you guys." Meanwhile, above, the third lied dead Orochimaru was panting, his arms limp, as he watched his giant snake with multi-headed being handled by Choji's clan in giant form. Well, now, he then spotted the sound four dead. Before him was Luna, Celestia, Naruto, and Sunset, while the male Kitsune was cleaning his claws on a rag. Sunset was licking BLD off, making the solar goddess hit her on the head and say, "Sunset, don't lick BLD, you don't know where its owner's been." Orochimaru sighed, "Well, a little early, but I can't fight two-tailed beast and two goddess." In a moment he started throwing up snake, making all four jump back as the snakes formed a larger hive-mind snake with Orochimaru's face. Luna turned green and covered her mouth. What in the 9 levels of Tartarus? Celestia was green and shivering, the two Kitsune shivering behind their mother at the evil unnatural abomination they were facing. "You turned yourself into a body-jacking parasite," she said, horror clearly on her voice. The mass moved to attack, only for Luna to make a barrier to keep it away. "Kill it with fire. It should be illegal for it to be alive. Kill it. Kill it. Kitsune, fire. Fire." The Fox twins remained shivering to the point they ran off on all fours. "Form it," as Orochimaru said, "I scare even demons." The Princess of the Night fired off a bright blue fireball at the snakes as she said, "I'll kill it with fire then." The snakes kissed as Celestia just stabbed one of her swords into the roof they were standing on, chaining Orochimaru. "I think letting him die works better. Parasites die without a host. I'll just hold this and he'll die," she said, scared as Orochimaru hissed. The Sannin then laughed, "Well, now I have lost, but I planned on this when I first found out the leaf had demons now. You may notice, unlike normal summons, my multi-head one is bleeding. Its BLD is toxic and currently bleeding into your ground, spreading, killing everything within it." Luna rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, the dead snake made our dirt potion. We'll have to make sure foals don't eat mud," she said, not carrying. Celestia rolled her eyes and said, "Sister, what does plants grow from? And what do animals feed on? The ground's toxic, plants won't grow and animals won't feed. Farming is gone. The leaf won't be able to produce food anymore." The other alicorn's eyes widened as Orochimaru laughed, "Yes, boring but practical. The leaf has fallen, or will when you run out of food reserves." Later that day it was raining. Plants were already looking like they were dying. In a hospital bed, Kabuto was laying. His only limp was his plastic mitten-handed shinobi wear arm as he used it to adjust his glasses as he looked to see Lee. "Can you adjust my bed? I think better sitting up." Lee did it. The arm and legless shinobi then said, well, this is a fine mess, we can't farm and will run out of food. The leaf will need to be abandoned. Maybe we could rebuild another village that could work, but would take too long, plus we lost a lot of the older generation. Lee did a handstand as he said, yes, my most youthful friend, it is a mess. Who plans on rebuilding his body with metal to return to being a shinobi? Too bad the sound is in better shape than us, it just lost a leader. Kabuto then looked to him and he said, Lee, you just saved the day. The green ninja flipped upright looking confused. The sound is set up in small bunkers and shell minor non-shinobi villages. We can probably just take one of those locations as a new home and move. Many of them are already in the land of fire. Lee then nodded, yes, but who would approve it? The council is at half-mast and won't agree on a Hokage or to such a thing. The white-haired currently limbless shinobi grabbed his phone. Twilight, do some digging, I have a plan to save the leaf. He then looked to see a nurse bring in a bowl of ramen and chopsticks as he yelled out, and a bag of plastic spoons. I'll starve with this mittened hand and chopsticks. Lee grabbed the sticks and said, I'll feed you, man. Don't make it weird. The white-haired man said, what a pal. Later on in the council room, Celestia kicked the door down, pulling out a copy of the village charter with highlighted parts. People do check this in case the council is not whole with it isn't half of you are dead, and no Hokage with there isn't the emergency power clause comes into effect. That states the just killed Hokage's widow becomes acting Hokage for a year, at with point she most chose a replacement. Before one of them could speak, the head of the Hyuga said, Celestia is recognized as Kushina. Minato may have been an Edo Tenshin, but he still died that day, so as his legal wife Celestia is a Hokage widow, so the third outliving his life matters not. Celestia is our fifth Hokage, or at least acting with emergency powers, making us powerless for it. The council got out and left. Celestia then picked up the Hokage hat and put it on and said, well, so this is the hat. Okay, Kabuto's plan is to pay the Sound Village back by location their parts or sub-villages and taking one of those as the base for a Neo-Leaf village. The head of the Hyugas, the only councilman left there, Hisashi, spoke up, I would normal disagree with someone so young, but he has given so much for the village, we most agree. What is his other plan? Celestia pulled out a paper from her chest and opened it. Heavy metal spiked wheels on a train so it can off track. If we ration and buy food from closer lesser villages, we can get it done and move to it to be mobile and nomadic. While we search for the known locations, we will do them all, even if we find the first one okay. As the Sound has many connections. Hell, we may even be able to keep this Leaf village running on their support, making the Leaf a minor republic, not a village. The Hyuga held his chin. It's an impressive idea, but we would need to cut resource form study. He won't be able to get his new limbs till it's built and we have a new home. The princess turned Hokage said, yeah, I know. It may only be a year, but I think my stay as Hokage will be more memorable by the lasting effects of the leaf. The Hyuga nodded, yes, it will, Lady Hokage. But for the moment we need to wait. The council already deployed a team on a mission. It'll take them to the land of snow. The Alicorn then sighed, so they get to skip the build. Great, she said sadly. Later on, the main group were talking. Applejack was hammering a board to repair part of the Hyuga compound while most of the parents were shaking. Really, Tenten Niji Rainbow Dash lead by Mike Guy. That won't end well. Guarding that actress, what's the big deal? She asked out loud. Flash, who was in copy of Jiraiya outfit, as he held out his hand using his Gelly stone to fire off blast that hammered in all the nails as he said, let's see now. The director was Loyal Oti, the last king of it, and the actress's history begins where the lost princess history ends. Kind of an open secret. She is the lost princess being dragged home by the rebellion to be put on the throne and face the man who tried to kill her as a little girl. Applejack blinked as she said, well darn. And I, though spoiled and filthy, smiling and cheering that spoiled die was the big shocker. On the boat watching the scene being record, Niji, who now had goggles and a heavy winter coat plus long pants and closed-in shoes, watched. If she hadn't maced when I asked for an autograph, I would be impressed. That is when there is a raid ship, as the other ship said. Your actress is the lost princess Koyuki. Hand her over for her to be headed to official our new ruling body. Rainbow Dash, who was in her normal cloth, smiled as she took to the air after a guy with an artificial arm riding a snowboard on snow he was manipulating to follow him. The guy yelled out, "Demon," as his arm showed off to grab her, still staying hooked by cable. She smiled as she let it grab her before she channeled lighting chakra through it, making it arc through the arm and show him, making him scream as he disconnected his hand and fell over into the icy water. Rainbow quickly sealed the hand into a scroll. "This will help with our own replacement part project. We'll get Kabuto real hands again thanks to you losers." The female shinobi was firing off her knives with ice bombs, firing off tornadoes, ice spikes when they went off. 10-10, in long pants and a winter coat, stood behind Niji as he used his 8 trigrams to deflect them as he said, "Okay, now I'll handle defense." The lady smiled as she unsealed what looked like a rifle with a scope. "Let's show this gun thing works." She then focused chakra into it and in a moment it fired off a mini kunai knife that hand and hit the lady shinobi right in the neck, killing her. As 10-10 said, "Twilight's thing works. I love guns," she said, hugging it. "It's the way of the future." The finally member of the team was fighting Might Guy. The sense had on a furred collared and sleeved version of his flank jacket, orange gloves closed and shoes with fur around them as he adjusted his scar and used Morning Peacock to melt a large wolf made of ice. "So this is all you got, Nadar?" The shinobi growled as he made an ice whale with a spear nose appear, only for Might Guy to release some chakra gates and quickly smash it with a kick. "Using armor to make up for lack of youth and a failing body won't work. You should have kept your training up." At that moment Rainbow Dash noticed the princess getting grabbed and flow on, only for someone to throw a device onto her back, making her fall, and it shocked her. She was grabbed and taken aboard a ship to see Dodo, the princess uncle, who quickly took her necklace. "Finally the key to your father's weapon." Rainbow Dash tried to use her chakra but was shocked as she said, "How do you even know it's a weapon?" Dodo looked at the lady in shock. "So the leaf does hold demons," he said, revealing his chakra armor wings as he said, "We'll use you as breeding stock for a demon army." Rainbow growled as she and the princess were taken to cells. As soon as it was closed, the actress was about to say something. She said, "Save the sad story. I was paid to protect you and I will. And I'll get your father's thing back," she growled, reaching into her pocket. She pulled out a pill and took it, making the chakra blocking device explode on her back as her rainbow tail and mane's colors inverted as her fur took on a grayer color as green chakra stormed around her. The guards turned to face her, only for Rainbow to hold out her hands and quickly fire off what looked like shuriken of electric energy. They flow off like bolts, hitting and shocking them to the point they were knocked out. The mare then kicked the back wall, making a hole, and she grabbed the princess and flew off after Dodo, finding him and landing just in time for the super solider drag to wear off as Rainbow landed just fine. So glad Twilight worked out that tired side effect, or at least made it delayed till morning. In a moment the bad guy put the crystal necklace in, making it open up and start, only for heat to happen, melting the snow, and he growled as Rainbow held his stomach. "Dude, your brother was the kind good king. Of course he won't have a weapon. If anything it would have been a gift for his daughter. This bee always complained about the cold, so clearly it was a giant heater all along. God damn it, you idiot." The mane yelled as he summoned out what looked like a ice tornado dragon as Rainbow Dash smiled as she said, "I still have some of Twilight's super drag in my system, so let's test boosted demon against boosted madman," she said, holding off her hands and holding back the tornado to both shock. She smirked as she said, "I am a Pegasus, controlling the weather is my thing." "A tornado is weather," she said, as in a moment the energy attack turned back, turning form black and red, to white and blue. The thing then went back, hitting it, sending, as a scene played out in the air. It was the princess as a little girl and her dad making the promise to bring spring to the land. There was cheers, and there was the film crew having recorded it all to make into the movie, along with some of the crew in samurai gear. Rainbow smiled as she fell over and said, "And out of chakra crashing now," she said as she passed out. Weeks later in the leaf, Kabuto was smiling as he looked to his second arm. It was mostly a mirror of the first one, but it had a metal hand that worked just like the old one, as he happily got himself into a wheelchair and rolled out of his hospital room. "And I am mobile again," he said happily. As he rolled out the hospital, waving as he said, "I'll be back for the prototype legs," he said happily, rolling when he saw Black and Red Cloud running by him, only for the blue shark swordsman of the mist to stop and slash at Zabuza. Kabuto's eyes widened as Sasuke walked up. His left eye was empty as he held an eye and the socket bleed. You missed it, May. My brother showed up wanting one of the foxes with this guy. I caught him off guard with my Susanoo and slashed one of his Sharingan, but then he got me with his complete Susanoo sword. Me and my made my eternal melt to cheat death and used a wire needle to rip out his other eye. I then killed him. Now I am off to go get this eye implant so I can have an eternal and not go blind, but I have to admit I think he finally had guilt and let me kill him. The Uchiha said as he walked in, saying, "Hello nurse, I need this eye transplant and I think stitches on my back inside Shinobi pass will be payment." Kabuto blinked as he said, "God damn, I missed a lot." He then turned to see Zabuza holding 2 of the 7 swords and a headless shark man. Zabuza walked off dragging both blades. He turned into a shark man. And you missed it talking to the Tengu, he said rudely as he yelled out, "Haku, we got 2 out of 7, let's try for the other 5 now." Kabuto face-palmed, "I missed the deaths of 3 out of 7 of the Akatsuki," he said in rage before he rolled off. "Calm yourself Kabuto, focus on helping with the Nomad off-trail train and finding the sound locations, rebuild the leaf and work on your new legs and metal parts to replace the plastics of this arms and another one of this metal hands as the mid is pretty useless," he said trying to calm himself. He then made it to the Hyuga compound and headed into Twilight's lab to see Limestone, who rolled her eyes. The mayor was in a purple kimono and said, "My sister said I had to help you in here since they are all doing ninja stuff." She sounded like she wasn't happy to be here. Kabuto smiled as he said, "Okay then let's start the metal working stuff as I need a copy of this metal hand so I can at least use jutsu again. Then let's build me some legs as think I can do it faster than the hospital can." Weeks later. Kabuto was walking around on new plastic Shinobi wear legs using a cane, holding it in his mitten hand. Limestone behind him as he looked at the train as he said, "So sad, I won't be going with my friends." Twilight walked up and smiled as she used magic to attack one of the massive wheels and she added, "We added a tower to a train car. The phone should have the range to contact us at least in text form if we need you, buddy." Applejack was putting a large sword onto the top of the engine happily. Shino then looked at the large puppet arms as Rarity used her magic to move them and draw the blade as she said, "Yep, that works, arms are good." "Chakra engine and electric engine working?" she asked. Luna smiled as she came out wearing a conductor head as she said, "Works," she said, her magic making the gears move and the car move forward. Sasuke walked up removing his bandages around his eye with a smile, "So the engine is finished. Now just the other cars." Tsunade smiled as she walked up, loading the medical law band med storage cars and hospital beds now. She said proudly, taking care of her 10 cars as she walked to them. Tenten smiled as she load weapons, scrolls and other ninja tools into one car, armory car ready as soon as I seal them all in scrolls to keep it one car. Choji's clan was moving in passenger cars, a food storage car and a kitchen, and will be ready with food. Rainbow Dash flowed down happily smiling as a lighting bolt that hit one of the cars and it was absorbed into seal and she smiled, and our chakra seal storage batteries work, at least the lighting release ones. Hinata smiled as she clapped, "Perfect, now if the others work we can charge batteries to power the electric part using elements," she said happily. Naruto just rolled his eyes before saying, "Alpha Den missing." Sunset nodded, licking her claws clean. Celestia walked up and smiled, "Not missing. Luna is heading this mission as Hokage. I can't go on missions, so do take care of your aunt for your mommy," she said, petting the twin kitsune's heads. Zabuza loaded in the fallen swordsman's blade as he said, "We'll find you an owner on the ride." "Okay Haku, pack up, we are on the mission list along with the demons and those brave enough to date them." Marble looked sad, "I am going to miss you Sasuke," she said sadly, only for the Uchiha to hold her hands and kiss her forehead. "Relax, when this is done I'll fly back to you, I promise, on my Tengu feathers, my love." Marble smiled and rested her hands and head on her chest while Sakura and Ino cried at the sigh, wishing it was them Sasuke was holding and whose head was being kissed by him. Trenderhoof adjusted his glasses as he cleaned his sword with had its gem replaced as he span it around, and Tenten looked at it and smirked, "What did you do to this weapon from a strange land?" The unicorn rolled his eyes, "Nothing, I replaced the decoration with a chakra storage unite that's hidden that ways if all else fails I can unleash chakra, form the blade for one last jutsu, inspired and made by studying the Sharkman's sword." He then put it in its heap behind his back. Applejack then shot the lady a glare as she said, "You is coming, but we need more shinobi." Kakashi then spoke up, "Me and Guy are the only other ones we know about coming along. I guess they figured all you demons would be enough of an invasion force, that and the Sharingan and Byakugan are enough." Hinata's father then walked off, hands behind his back, in a shinobi outfit like Kakashi's, as he said, "Add me to the list. I will not allow my clan's future to be on the line like this without myself at the front line. Besides, someone has to be Lady Fifth's trusted eyes on this mission, and as the only council, even if out of power loyal to her, it falls to me," he said proudly. Hayashi smiled warmly as he said, "Also Kabuto, any more intel from your last days in sound?" Kabuto sighed as he adjusted his glasses before using both his new hands to hold his cane. "Well, that's it. I heard chatter about Orochimaru studying the demons through vivisection. At first I thought it was a plan, but after hearing about how a portal opened up revealing an enslaved city, I fear he already has done it." Rarity nodded as she held her chin. "We'll double the number of passenger cars for more possible turncoats form sound then. It'll take us another 2 days, but we can still leave before we have to start making deals for food," she added, flat but checking her mouth by looking at Twilight, who nodded. Shikamaru was on top of a car as he said, "This is the biggest product of our time. This isn't a train, it's a mobile lesser shinobi village. We are even putting a jutsu library car. There is a group called the Wandering Ninja and many nomad groups, but none like this. We are making history." Hinata then opened her jacket to reveal her chunnin vest and she smiled, "Still can't believe they made me a chunnin." Shino adjusted his sunglasses. "It honestly makes sense. You're the only one promoted by the council before disempowerment for a year." Fluttershy land and continued, "What my boyfriend means, out of all the shinobi that got to show your stuff, you were the only human one and the only one to beat a demon, making you the best in their minds. It wasn't the amazing jutsu you invent by merging rasengan and a trigrams, it was all who you used it on." Hinata looked down at the flank jacket sadly now. "Oh," she sounded ashamed. Lee stretched his legs as he said, "Doesn't mean it wasn't a rightful call, Hinata. You pulled off a most youthful jutsu against Rainbow Dash." Sai nodded as he landed on an ink eagle and said, "The ear backup engine is finished and its saw hands are ready for action. Twilight will have to power and use them." "Is all us done?" he asked, sounding friendly. Twilight pulled out a clipboard and pen and started checking things off as she noticed Spike and Akamaru rubbing nose and saying how much they love each other. "Well, now Kiba joined, so we just need 2 more shinobi." 2 more. Jiraiya then walked up with Flash, "How about a sage and a sage in training?" The Alicorn did math in the air and said, "Yeah, that'll work, we're good. Let's get loading up and making the final card to get a move on. Gee, so much prep work, can't wait for it." Sunset then tackled and start kissing Flash up as Naruto rolled his eyes. "Sister Stealer better be nice." His claws burst into flames for a moment, sending a threat. Haku used his ice release to make some ice for the food cars as he said, "Okay, let's get ready." As Rarity said, "We can get it done in a few days." Naruto quickly made shadow clones and sent them out to do heavy lifting and welding. Meanwhile in the Hokage Tower, Celestia walked in and saw Konohamaru crying. "It's my grandpa's." Before he could cry, Celestia held him and petted his head, making him just cry it out. Celestia said, "SHSHSHSH, it's okay, we all lost people, but we will make sure it wasn't for naught. The will of fire will continue to burn brighter than ever before after this, I promise. So when I give up this hat to the 7th, the village will be better than ever before." Kabuto was in the lead watching the train leave as he pulled out the new model phone with keyboard on the side to send a message as he said, "Remember, out of the 3 locations the first one is the most dangerous to my knowledge. They have a shinobi clan allied to them called the Fuma." On the train, Choji got the message and showed it to Shikamaru as he held his chin. "Then I guess our first action when we arrive will be to ask about the Fuma clan." Flash Sentry walked by. "Yeah, demons asking about a clan and sound that won't make people SHT themselves, not to mention we are on a war train off the tracks." Days later, sure enough, Flash's prediction, people ran screaming thinking they were a party from hell on vacation in their land. Flash sighed as he walked with his mentor to what looked like a club, but Flash looked at the sigh as he said, "Does that say Fuma?" Jiraiya nodded as he summoned a toad to knock the door down. "Yep, now talk." In a moment one of the ladies bartending used her hair to try and grab the sandine, only for the man's on hair to spike up and slash it as he said, "Lady, I've been using that move since before you could walk." Their leader Hanzaki tried to slash Flash, but in a moment the Pegasus had a green energy rod in his hand blocking it as the old man said, "I am a Sannin and he is a demon. I am teaching you are outmatched, for I am the Toad Mountain Sage Jiraiya." In a moment they all bowed as Hanzaki said, "Forgive us Sannin, we don't want trouble. We just want to make out a living with our village gone and half our clan ripped away to Orochimaru." Flash crossed his arms and said, "The snake died." They all gasped as the orange guy continued, "Which brings us to the point his snakes poison our village home ground. We need a cure to return to farming or our village will fall on its stomach. Now it sounds like you need a village, so your choice or stay with crazy people following a dead man more wicked than I could ever be, or side with the leaf and get a new home." Hanzaki rose as he put his sword up. "Well, when you put it like that I'll tell you all I know." Later on, when the group was reuniting at the train, the Fuma clan were happily putting on leaf headbands, smiling as they were part of a village again. Kotoheim held her chin as she looked to Pinkie Pie. "Makes sense you would side with the leaf since the sound has a group of your own." The mare jumped as she said, "Well, now that just isn't going to do." She then pulled out the phone to send a message. Meanwhile, at a gate, Trenderhoof used his sword to hold back a guy with a scissor-like wrist weapon as he checked it and said, "They have those like us in that village trapped." Kakashi then used his Chidori to slash someone using spiders as a weapon's throat. "Well, now this won't do." The Anthro unicorn then made a water blade spike come off his sword, impaling his enemy in the chest. The last one guarding the gate stood up, removing her disguise and transforming, gaining chakra wings in the air, and she made the ground cave in below her, sucking them all in, or at least that was the plan. She gasped when someone tapped her shoulder and she turned to see Fluttershy waving. A showing on her wrist were metal gauntlets and a spike came out of one. "Oh, sorry about this, but I floated like a butterfly and sting like a bee." The lady then noticed a wound on her tapped shoulder and looked to the yellow mare. "I've been poisoned, haven't I?" Fluttershy nodded as the other lady dropped out of the air dead, ending her jutsu. In a moment, however, Trenderhoof, Kakashi and Fluttershy were forced into an upside-down pyramid of chakra. Erasure walked out moving his hands cloths. "A pity my clansmen had to die, but it gave me the time to set this up. Time to be crushed." He moved his hands closer together, making it get smaller. Kakashi was struggling using his chakra, his Sharingan out, making what looked like ribs appear around them, holding it back, shielding them. "This is draining me, I won't be able to keep it up." Fluttershy, maybe summon some animals to help or something. Trenderhoof's horn glow, "Or maybe just ask the guy who can move things with his mind," he said in a moment, making the blade weapon on the corpse fly off, slashing the man's throat, ending his jutsu, freeing them. Kakashi lowered his headband as he added, "Yeah. Keep forgetting about that. Okay, now we advance in and split up, make ways for the coming teams on the train by scattering the defense." Once split up, Fluttershy summoned a massive amount of saber-toothed cats of all kind along with other animals to fight for her, but she heard a tank and in a moment a flood came in and wrapped around a sound ninja behind her, drowning him. The water then stole the sound ninja's shirt and pants and formed into a guy who cracked his neck and looked at her. Fluttershy had her stingers out as he held out his hand. "Hold up lady, I was captured, named Suigetsu, my clan can turn into water, so he kept me locked in a tank to study. I heard he died by he demons of the leaf. You look like a demon and you have the leaf symbol, and your pet saber-toothed lioness break my tank allowing me out, so thanks lady." Fluttershy snapped her fingers. "I know Yuzabuza talks about you." The white-haired man jumped in shock. "He's with you guys?" "I knew he called himself a demon, but to see him be honorably one, that's some SHT. How is he doing?" The mayor said, "He and his son are fine." The white-haired man jumped, but Fluttershy said, "Haku is adopted also." He said, "You dreamed of using one or all of the 7 swords. Well, we have Samahata just lying around. Come join the leaf and it can be yours." The white-haired man shocked the mayor's hands and said, "You got yourself a deal lady. Me making a deal with a demon to live my dream? Oh well, better than Orochimaru." Deeper below, Trenderhoof was standing before the students of Crystal Prep in white jail kimonos in horror as the former dork Trenderhoof was using a sword to slash apart curse-marked mutants. The stallion looked to see some of his former bullies as he put the blade up and made spiked domes around his fists to block strikes. Form a guy with scythes for hands, and he went in and head-butted him, his horn going into the mutant's neck, making it drop dead. He then jumped back to avoid a fireball and he made his hand, sending off a water dragon. The remaining mutant spat a fireball flashing the dragon to steam, and Trenderhoof smirked. When the steam cleared, Trenderhoof had his BLD-covered sword shouldered as he walked past a headless corpse to slash the cage around the students. Sour Sweet Now an Anthro Earth Pony was shaking with her friends who used to bully gasped, "Please, we're sorry, don't kill us." Indigo Zap Now an Anthro Pegasus cried, "Please, I will go out with you, just put the sword away," she said in horror. Sugarcoat How an Anthro Unicorn was crying like a baby, "Don't kill me, I'm too young to die." Sunny Flare Now an Anthro Earth Pony crossed her arms, already in hell. Lemon Zest was now an Anthro Unicorn crying, "I don't want to die." The stallion looked confused, "Ladies and assholes, I am one of the good guys. Now come on, we're getting out of here." "But be careful," he said, tapping his headband, "everyone with this headband is killing everyone who followed Orochimaru while looking for something to save our land. In a hostile takeover. Gee, we make good look so bad." He then used one of the corpse shirts to clean his sword. "Have to keep this thing clean, it was a gift." Meanwhile in the sound, Sasori was walking around, his left arm and wing broken off, his cord ripped out of his gut, and stood before a down Might Guy. "You smashed all my puppets and part of me. It's impressive. The head of the Hyuga clan may have informed you of me using the back door, but it still matters not how much you damaged me. I protect my one organic part, and the iron sand was laced with poison." Might Guy was down on his stomach, struggling to stand to finish the fight. The Akatsuki member looked on it. "I looked up to puppets as they could be repaired and return, always did what they were told and never turned on their masters," he said, looking at his one arm's broken flamethrower nozzle bend into a circle. "You are going out of your way to comment the order your masters gave you. You fight like a puppet, so you have my respect." The red-haired human turned puppet then turned to see Haku without his mask as he blinked. "I thought Twilight was kidding. You made a whole replacement body. We're struggling to make new arms and legs for our friend and you replaced everything. This cyborg SHT is scary." The puppet warrior picked up a sword from one of his fallen puppets littering the ground. "Cyborg, I like that term." He then tried to swing but found himself frozen, and he saw an icicle in his core part as he said, "Well then, I have lost. I will tell you this then, what I was after is in the door to your left. It is a sheet of talisman that hold tailed beast chakra for the first aid. It was a shortcut we were planning to use for our..." He then died. Haku in a moment used ice to make a key and open the door before grabbing the chest and turning to Guy and pulling out a phone as he hit push to talk. "Guy sense down, Guy sense down." Later on at the train now parked at the gate. Suigetsu was now wearing his normal outfit, putting the Sword of the Mist he was given along with a leaf head hand on as he looked at Guy, who was sitting looking ill. "So the poison was just lead-based?" Guy stood up shaking. "Yes, he mixed it in with the iron so it was magnetic and poisons to open wounds, so all I need was some meds and some BLD transfusions. Thank goodness Ino and Sakura showed up to keep me stable while they got me back here. Still a little shake as I am low on BLD and not stable enough for BLD pills." Elsewhere, Haku was making an ice key to open the chest beside the Rainboom's teammates, Naruto, Hinata and Luna. Shikamaru looked at them. "So this 8-piece of paper hold chakra formed the first 8-tailed beast, and this was a shortcut for this terrorist group's main plans. I think I know what it is, but I don't want to say it," he said, holding all 8 papers. Twilget blinked as she asked, "What do you mean?" In a moment she watched as her boyfriend slapped all 8 onto Naruto, who blinked and before anyone could protest. The paper sunk in as Naruto stood up straight, growing a 10th tail. His hair, ears and tails turned red, the tips of his ears and tails white. His skin got paler as his eyes became golden. To everyone's shock, he looked at his claws and spoke normal. "Well, the imbalance is gone, so I can think clearly now. Hold on." He then poked his sister's forehead, making Sunset stand up normal now too. Sunset blinked in shock as she said, "Okay, I am unfurl now. Can someone explain what just happened to my brother?" Hinata was gasping as Naruto quickly span her around, dipped her, kissed her and went on about how happy he was. He could now list the reasons he loved her with he was doing, making her get redder and redder. Shikamaru sighed as he said, "Our 9 tails has evolved into 10 tails. You know, the mythical monster that almost turned humanity into trees when it was commanded by that lady from the moon who fathered the sage of the 6 paths. I hate to say it, but this fairy tale is true, and Naruto is now the proof. He is the 10 tails. He is what the Akatsuki were trying to recreate." Before anyone could say a word, Naruto took a breath and said, well now that is a problem. If they clearly want the power I now hold, they will target me and try to seal me to use it, but also why the hell would I want to turn someone into a tree? It makes no sense. And I don't feel like my power set is that different. He said that in a moment he made a fist only to open it to see small orbs of fire, water, wind, earth and lighting chakra in his hand. Twilight looked at them and said, it appears it has. I bet this is how the turn into tree thing works. By combining earth and water, trees could be grown around someone to act as a jail or through someone to kill them. Naruto held his hands up in shock as he said, okay then, so I have all the elemental chakras and in theory can put them together. Let's give it a test, he said, putting 2 hands on a tree, and it flash froze as he sighed and said, okay, confirmed. And with twice as much chakra as before, I am a walking weapon of mass destruction. Gee, oh joy, he said sarcastically. Shino then spoke up, I can't get used to him talking normal and contributing to this, he said flatly. Trenderhoof held his chin as he looked Naruto over and said, yeah, it's weird, but the point is we know have what the bad guys want, the 10 tails. Makes me think they had someone with the right dojutsu form that story to control him. You guys don't think? Sunset jumped and let out a flat, I have hope the bloody hell not, she said enraged. Lee punched his palm, 8 out of 9 tailed beast chakra samples curse mark research. This is clearly why it is the most dangerous. Orochimaru could have been using some of that chakra with the curse marks, he said, filling in the blanks. Luna held her chin, I am going to go try and talk to the last living sound member. That sounds like a much more sane thing to do right now, she said, leaving. How am I going to explain this to his mother? Sasuke held his chin and said, and let's factor in that just leaves 6 members, Zombie 1, Zombie 2, One Eye, Plant, Unknown, and Paper Lady. They all looked at him and said, that's what my brother radioed. I am guessing that describes them. Unknown leader, probably the possible Rinnegan holder. One, I don't know. Zombies, let's not go there right now. Paper Lady probably use paper jutsu. And Plant Freak, I am guessing Yamato wasn't the only attempt Orochimaru made for would release. Meanwhile, Luna was talking to the life support Kimimaro, who said, I will thank you for applying a chakra blocking seal so my friend Yugo can have a normal life, without his chakra absorption power turning him into a rampaging monster, but Orochimaru gave me purpose in life and a home. Luna gave him a shot within a moment, allowed him to move in reaction to it in your arms as she handed him his medical files in Orochimaru's handwriting, no, he used you. As you can see here, he knew what your problem was. You have too much iron in your bones and that was making you sick. The shinobi read it, confirming it, and said, giving my bloodline limit. That is most ironic, and I take it the shot was something to lessen the effect, and if I just get regular BLD transfusions to remove the tainted BLD I would be fine. Luna then held her chin and said, correct, he was going to lead you die as he didn't seem the point in a host body that need help to survive. He also found out this problem is genetic, so anyone you father would likewise has this problem, so there was no point to him in helping you at least revive your clan. The sound shinobi sat up using his willpower in tears, his curse mark activating, I gave him my life. One touched his chest, touching the curse mark, and in a moment the curse mark changed. His chin color became pale blue, his bones a grayish silver as his eyes widened as Luna said, I gave it the same twist as Sasuke. The chakra being absorbed now helps one mental and physically repair, and also you don't need transfusions, you can just focus on adding iron to the bones you summon to use it. The shinobi Kimimaro drew a bone blade from his arm, thinking of iron, and sure enough the bone was plated in iron, and he bowed saying, then it's only fair I serve you in return. Meanwhile outside, as Naruto walked perfectly upright, his 10 tails caught eyes, making everyone who know of the fairy tale bow out of respect for the legendary beast of doomsday who was now walking among them. The shinobi held Hinata's hand nervously as he said, as if I didn't get enough fearful looks already. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author JBoy44 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.